Hello and welcome to the Run Testers. I'm Nick.
I'm Kieran.
And today we're going to be comparing the Adidas Adios Pro 2 and the Adidas Adios Takumi Sen 8. So the Adios Pro 2 and the Takumi Sen 8 are the kind of two top racing shoes in Adidas's lineup. The Adios Pro 2 is kind of built for those longer events like half marathons and marathons, whereas the Takumi Sen is a slightly lighter, lower profile shoe that's more designed for 5Ks and 10Ks. The Takumi Sen is the cheaper shoe. It comes in at £170 in the UK or $180, whereas the Adios Pro 2 is £180 in the UK or $220. Takumi Sen is a 33mm stack height at the heel and a 6mm drop from heel to toe, whereas the Adios Pro 2, the numbers I have, are 39.5mm at the heel, and then it's an 8.5mm drop from heel to toe. The Takumi is substantially lighter. It's 194 grams in my UK size 9, compared to 231 grams for the Adios Pro 2. So both shoes have a kind of very thin Cellar mesh upper. It's kind of even more aggressively cut and stripped back, I think, on the Takumi Sen, which has also a fair bit less padding around the kind of heel. You're getting a little bit more on the Adios Pro 2, just to give that little bit of extra comfort on those long events. But it really is, they are both quite stripped back uppers to keep the weight down on the shoe. Both shoes have a full Light Strike Pro midsole, Adidas's best foam, springy stuff, very lightweight. There's a fair bit more of it on the Adios Pro 2, not just because of the stack height, but also the width of the shoe. It's particularly noticeably wider at the heel here. There's a small carbon plate at the heel to increase the stability, and then those full carbon-infused EnergyRods under the forefoot. Now those are thicker and kind of less flexible than the EnergyRods in the Takumi Sen, which could be made of glass fibre, I'm not sure, but it makes the shoe a little bit more flexible, like I say, and it probably keeps the weight down a little bit as well, while still providing that little bit of extra pop to your toe off, that kind of propulsion that you've been getting from the EnergyRods in the Adios Pro 2. Now both shoes have also these interesting kind of cutouts from the midsole foam to kind of bring the weight down. It's a really significant chunk on the Adios Pro 2 on the kind of the inside of the midfoot there, and then there's a cutout in a similar place in the Takumi Sen, but it's not quite so substantial because the stack is lower, and then an extra kind of cutout on the outside of the forefoot as well. Both shoes have a nice bit of continental rubber right at the top, but it's a bit different the way they've designed this. So you see the Adios Pro 2 has this kind of thin, tacky rubber at the heel, and for actually most of the forefoot as well, with just a small section of continental rubber right at the toe off to kind of give you that grip when you need it, when running fast in those kind of longer races. Whereas the Takumi Sen has a far bigger kind of continental rubber section. Again, the idea is to provide a bit more stability and traction when rounding kind of corners at the faster paces you might be going at in those 5K and 10Ks. And then on kind of the heel and the side here of the shoe, you have that kind of similar thin, tacky rubber to what you're getting on the Adios Pro 2. Right, let's do a quick word on fit. Kieran, how do these fit for you?
Yeah, I ran in my normal size 8.5 in both shoes. The Pro I found kind of fine, nice and comfortable, fit okay. I would go true to size. In the Takumi Sen, I actually found them a little bit difficult to get on initially. I found I had to really work hard with these laces to loosen them off, and then it was a real kind of wriggle to get my foot in. And then for the first mile or so, I struggled a bit. And I think that's basically because I've got quite kind of wide, broad feet, quite high. And I don't know, whether I'd go up half a size, I don't know, but I just found them a little bit less comfortable until I'd kind of run them in a bit on each and every run that I did in them.
Yeah, these kind of harken back a little bit more to kind of classic Adidas, narrow, classic old Adios and Boston shoes. I true to size in both shoes and found them great. I think the toe box is narrower and pointier on the Takumi, gets it slightly more locked in, strapped down fit of that, like I say, that kind of classic racing flat, whereas this is very much a modern shoe, which is a racer, but quite roomy and comfy. Yeah. But yeah, I was happy true to size in both, but I have a narrow foot, so that's probably where the difference is there. Yeah. All right then, on to the run tests. Both these shoes are built for running fast in different ways though, Kieran. What kind of really stood out in your impressions of the shoes?
I've loved both of these shoes actually. I think they're both really exciting to run in.
Yeah.
I've done quite a lot of really long miles in the Pro 2.
Yeah.
I've done more kind of shorter, faster stuff in this one. Yeah. So I haven't pushed this up to the kind of distance half and full marathons. Yeah. So just so you know what I've done for comparison. I think overall in the run test, I think I've found these almost their use cases as Adi would describe them. So if I'm going to pick marathons, I feel comfortable in these. When I'm going short and fast, I want to go in these. I wasn't entirely sure from the runs that I've done whether or not I'd be able to take these sort of lighter, more minimal shoes up to those longer distances.
Yeah.
But they are both punchy. I think this is a little bit more punchy and a bit more fun.
Yeah, I actually took these straight out of the box into a session, which ended up totaling about a half marathon of distance. And I was quite surprised because I did like some 60-second intervals and then a 10k run at just slightly slower than marathon pace. And I was really impressed by how supportive and kind of they pushed me. So on that 10k, obviously it isn't, that was round, like I say, marathon pace, but they still felt like I was helping me roll through and get through. And I was really tired at the end of it, but it got like a super shoe feeling from it over that longer distance. And then I've gone right down to very short, sharp reps, 200 meters on an indoor cambered track, and they've got the chops for that. On the same session I was using some racing flats and some spikes, and I felt these were kind of really almost as fast as the spikes even. They've got a lot of punch, like you say. I think in terms of the ride feel, this is firmer, but still quite soft, because all these shoes are soft these days, but firmer, more directed, more punchy, and even though it's like a more flexible shoe with those rods, I still feel like you're getting a lot of push from those rods in the shoe, which is actually a little bit different to the Street Fly. We'll talk about another video, I'm sure. But yeah, I'd actually kind of agree that Adidas has nailed the descriptions of these shoes. Like sometimes brands get them wrong, but this is certainly clearly built for shorter stuff, and it's not just a case of a little bit less stack has made it a pared down Adios Pro 2. It feels like a different shoe. And
that's when you first sort of look at them, that's what you kind of think. You go into it thinking, well, it's kind of a very, very similar shoe, just sort of minor differences. But actually, I do think on the foot feel, that overall the way that the shoe sort of wraps and fits, I don't know how to describe this properly, but this one I felt a little bit more reluctant to run in a way. I have to sort of explain this, but there wasn't so much protection. I don't know. I found that I had to be on my game in this, and the way that it felt, I was going out a little bit more minimal and a little bit more exposed, if you like, than in the Pro 2.
This is a really accommodating shoe. I'd put it that way. When I first used it, I did like a park run in it, and I kind of did ran at a perfectly normal time, but it felt quite fast. But it was when I did a half marathon race in it on a hilly course the day after I'd done another race, just to kind of see how I felt on tired legs, and it was so nice and so smooth. I just got faster throughout the race and felt so strong and protective. And I've done some running with both shoes on, classic Kieran style, and it's noticeable how, especially as a heel strike, this has got a wider base, it's a bit softer at the back, you just kind of settle into a lovely stride. You just feel like, I can run all day. Like when we do the Bilbao Marathon next month, I'm going to be running in this shoe because it's not an all-out marathon. It feels like you can run quick, but it really accommodates you if you're not that fussed about running quick as well. Whereas this, it's a directed shoe, it's a punchy shoe. I think you can go long in it, but you're racing definitely, and it's certainly more suited to that shorter stuff.
I feel like I have to be in good form for this one more than I do in that one.
Okay.
I guess in the 7 marathons in 7 days, I did a kind of slower marathon in the Pro 2, and it was kind of fine. I don't think I'd feel quite as confident doing the marathon distance in that, but I think a lot of fun to lace these up and go out when you're doing those kind of shorter, sharper bursts. I'd like a super exciting shoe.
And you can roll in it as well. Like you can roll those long. I did 5K track this week at the end of a session, and it wasn't all out, but I was running faster than I expected on feel, and it did feel very smooth and accommodating. And I just it's whether that would still feel like that 35 to 40k of a marathon if you weren't gunning it, whereas this feels just such a punchy direct. Although I would say this is slightly more unstable with this midsole cutout. Even though this has a midsole cutout, I think just because it is lower stack and firmer, to me I feel like a bit more reliable, the footing in it perhaps. But you've got to watch out for those a little bit.
And I guess the other things, there's small differences here, like you're getting a little bit less got a little bit of padding and sort of comfort overall in the top of the heel collar, which can make a difference on longer distances. And I think that's sort of what I mean when I feel like I'm putting in this shoe. It feels a little bit like you need to put these on, run somewhere, to me anyway, really fast, and then take them off. Rather than be in them for a long time. That's kind of how that's my feel when in them. But
that's true. And the only one thing I say about that is, compared to an old school racing flat, I used this for the third set of reps I was doing that day, and I'd done the spikes and the flat, and pulling these on after using spikes in particular was like, oh thank God, my calves, I'm so beat up. And actually, that's when you realise how cushioned this shoe still is. It's just in the era of these kind of shoes, it feels a bit more snappy. So on to the verdict. So the Takumi, you're basically getting a shoe that's £10 cheaper. It's 30 to 40 grams lighter-ish, but it isn't really the same shoe, just lighter and cheaper. It's a different build of shoe. So I guess when it comes to it, it might come down to what your use scenario is almost.
Yeah, absolutely. It's almost like this head-to-head is maybe a little bit of a cheat, because I sort of feel like they do quite distinct things. I think if I were buying one shoe out of these two for the way that I run, which is kind of often slightly slower, more marathon stuff, I think the Pro gives a little bit more versatility. Yeah. And I think for that reason, I think that's the one that I would pick over and above. If I was doing sort of just dedicated fast stuff on the track, then maybe, or fast stuff on the roads, then I'd go with the Takumi Sen. But for my overall use case, to spend that money once, I'd go with the Pro.
Yeah, this is a really fun shoe and a great shoe for intervals. I'd say if you've already got this shoe or another carbon shoe in your locker, it's a bit of a luxury at £170, I'd say. But I actually think both these shoes can do the other one's job.
Yeah.
Like, you can go long in this, and some people might prefer the strip back feel, but it's not ideal for the marathon. I'd say the half marathon 10k is kind of the crossover point. I'd also actually say that the Adios Pro 2 is not a bad short distance racing shoe. I've done an all out park run in it. I've done like 400 reps down the track really quite happily, and it'll do that job as well. So there's also a little bit of preference in feel here, whereas this is a firmer shoe and this is a bit softer. One other thing to mention is I think a lot of people are hoping from something like the Takumi and Nike Street Fly, a lower stack would make it better for aggressively rounding corners and that kind of thing. Now, my experience has been much better, and that's partly because I'm very, very good at rounding corners because I have a ridiculously high cadence and a very short little shuffly stride. So if you're a very elegant runner, like, I actually beaten my friend in a race purely on the fact there was two 90-degree turns in the last set, and he just went, I can hear you coming, pit-pattering behind me. So actually, I don't mind cornering in big super shoes, and the Takumi wasn't a huge improvement, but did you notice anything on that front?
I turn like a tanker, so I didn't notice. To be honest, I'm not really moving fast enough at sometimes this to. I didn't really find that there was a huge difference, to be honest.
Fair enough. Yeah, so that you're still not getting that kind of racing flat feel,
Yeah.
that ground feel. You get a bit more ground feel than the Takumi, but you're not getting. This is still the same height as the original Vaporfly. They're still kind of bulked up super shoes. So yeah, but two very good shoes, two really fun shoes.
Yep.
The Takumi is a blast to run in, and I think it's going to hold up quite well. If you are looking for a really good interval shoe, it is a great interval shoe. It's a lovely shoe for all your short, sharp training, and it's definitely going to be a quick one over 5k, 10k. The Adios Pro 2 is a bit more comfy, but more cushioned. It's still a good 5k racer, and is clearly a better marathon racer in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think if you were going to train for a marathon, you knew you were going to do some intervals. You knew you were then going to go and look for a shoe to race in.
Yeah.
For me, maybe this one does it.
Yeah, it's just a whole package. Yeah. So if you have this already, I probably wouldn't invest in another one. But if you're new to this scene, then there's a fun shoe to be had here. A very lightweight shoe. Okay, that's it guys, that's our comparison of the Adios Pro 2 and the Takumi Sen 8. Do like, subscribe and ring the little bell. So if you want more super shoe chat, it's coming.
Yeah, ask us what you want to know as well.
Yeah,
hit us in the comments.
100%, like we've been testing these shoes out, variety of distances, loads of stuff, so ask us what you want to know and we will do our best to tell you.